Welcome into a Wednesday edition of Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Today on the show, could the Hawks be telling us that John Collins is going to be here? We will talk to our Locked On Braves postcast host, Grant McCulley. And was LeBron James misinterpreted about what he said? It's all next. It's Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
We welcome you into this Wednesday edition of Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Head over to youtube.com. Find Locked On Sports Atlanta in your search browser. When you get there, hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment. Of course, free and available on all your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify and Odyssey. Download us, give us a 5-star review, and give me a follow on my personal Twitter page. That would be at JMCH316. Maybe I'm reading too much into some comments here over this summer league. So the Hawks obviously are out in Las Vegas right now in the middle of their summer league. And remember way back when the blue checkmark media swore up and down that John Collins was going to get traded on draft night. And then when that narrative didn't happen, it's well, they've been having discussions, but at some point John is going to get moved. He's going to get traded for sure. Okay. So again, that could still happen. But I want you to listen to, and I'm going to read you a couple of comments from both Nate McMillan and Landry Fields, the general manager. So Nate McMillan out in Las Vegas during one of the games out there was talking about the idea of what John Collins, is right now to this team, right? I mean, he was asked about what he means. And what Nate McMillan was talking about is the idea that he said John Collins was hurt during the playoffs. And by the way, this is during the broadcast, okay? John Collins was hurt during the playoffs, so it really put a lot of pressure on Trey to do a lot for us. Adding Murray to our lineup, that's really going to help us. It gives us another option out there with Trey and John Collins. Now, does that sound like a man who is ready to move on from John Collins? Does that sound like a head coach who doesn't expect one of his players to be here? Again, maybe I'm reading too much into this. Maybe I'm the one who's misinterpreting and things like that. I get it. I understand. Then I also want to read you a comment from Landry Fields, who was, again, part of the NBA's broadcast coverage. And of course, they're, right now talking to everybody out there. He was asked the question, quote, how do you look at John Collins philosophically while weighing his long-term fit and value versus what that can bring in a trade? Here's his answer, quote, I always get asked that question one way or the other. John is a valuable player. If you're building a roster with any team and you're looking at how you can get better, teams often think this way. While the Hawks have a really good player that makes a certain amount of dollars and that works for what they're trying to do. So there are a bunch of concepts they're going to throw our way and say, what do you think of John? The truth of the matter is that John Collins is still on the Hawks. We still have value in him too. This isn't one of those, we have to get off John. That's absurd. There's a misinterpretation of that. You always think of the player from that standpoint because he is constantly in talks. Does that sound like a guy who's ready to move on? Now, look. This could all be smokescreens, right? Because again, the blue checkmark media has sworn up and down to me that John Collins won't be here. That doesn't matter about reading the tea leaves. And once the blue checkmark media puts that narrative out there, he has to be gone, right? So I'm going to bring this up to you in just a second about what my thoughts are. But first, let me talk to you about my friends over at BetOnline.net. They are sponsoring the show with us today, your number one source for all of your betting needs and all of your sports information. It is easy to use. Get your mobile device. You're looking to try to make some bets right now. Baseball season in full swing. Every day we got games going on. You got the Open coming up. You got MMA. You got boxing. You got everything going on right now in the world of sports that you could still bet on every day. BetOnline.net is your best source. Find your sports information, your league reviews, news, Everything that you can want right at your fingertips. Want wagering information? You want live betting, esports scores? Everything is available at betonline.net. It's your best spot for all of your scores, podcasts, and news of the season. So here's what I want you to do. Head over to the website today. Use your mobile device. Learn more about some of the trends and get in on the action over at betonline.net. BetOnline.net is where the game starts. So this is my thought, that if they got an offer that blew their socks out of the water for John Collins, because they've also made it very clear that they are not moving on from John Collins unless they get what they think is a good value to them, or as they use their quote, ready to win now players. So this whole narrative about they have to trade John Collins. Don't you understand? You can't put him in that many rumors and mentions and keep him around. But I keep going back to the idea of, I haven't heard a peep, not a peep. I work for the flagship station of the Atlanta Hawks. We talk to people. We have the GM on the station. We have the team president on the station. I hear from all kinds of Hawks related people in their organization. We hear from players. We hear from coaches. We hear from the GM. I haven't heard a peep, not a peep, about the idea of John Collins' camp wants him out of Atlanta. John Collins and his camp came to Tony Ressler, Travis Schlenk, Landry Fields, Steve Koonin, take your pick of the name, and said, I want out of Atlanta. We heard the reports that Kevin Durant went to the ownership group and said, I want to trade. We haven't heard that at all. And I'm of the mindset that he's not going to get traded. And I am going to believe in what the head coach and the general manager, in the quotes that I just read you. Again, do I think that if there is a deal on the table that completely knocks their socks off, whether that's Durant or whatever, sure, I think that John Collins is not an untradeable part of the Atlanta Hawks. He's not so valuable to the Atlanta Hawks that there's no way. I mean, there's two guys right now. That's Trae Young, and that's the guy who they just picked up in DeJounte Murray. Right now, those two guys are locked in for sure. But if there is a deal that would come along that would knock their socks off, sure, they would listen and probably make a move for it. But I don't think that deal is out there. And I don't think that they are actively hoping to just make a move. Again, when I hear names like Harrison Barnes, is that moving the meter? Is that the kind of deal that we're talking about? If the Hawks did trade for a Harrison Barnes and involved Collins in it, okay, then I'll believe the idea of they don't want John Collins at no matter what. I don't get that sense. And your head coach dropped a little nugget the other day. Your GM drops another little nugget. And by the way, this is not from weeks ago. This is literally in the last day or so here. They were playing out in Las Vegas in the NBA Summer League, and literally both guys brought those comments out there. So I know the blue checkmark media, they don't ever get anything wrong, right? Or let me say, at least if they do get something wrong, they're never going to admit to it. I know it's, the blue checkmark media can do the lambada, and they can do the hokey pokey, and they can, do all these little dances and all their kind of stuff, and they can spin their little narratives, and it can go from, well, he may not get traded draft night, but he's going to get traded. Then it could be, well, the Hawks didn't get the offer that they really wanted. Okay. Or, and hear me out, or maybe the Hawks really aren't as excited about the idea of moving on from John Collins, and maybe they actually want him. Maybe they actually would like him. Again, sure, just about every player, if you get the right deal, could be involved in something. But maybe based upon what the head coach is saying, maybe based upon what the general manager is saying, could it be that potentially, I know it's crazy talk, that the blue checkmark media maybe hasn't been right about this? And maybe the Hawks value John Collins more than what they're being led to believe, maybe more than what is expected. Maybe that John Collins is in their plans and they're going to try to build with him instead of without him. All right, when we come back, we will talk to our Locked On Braves podcast host, Grant McCulley, as the Braves look to take 2 out of 3 from the division-leading New York Mets. It's up next on Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta.